So what do you need to win? You need three things. I try to keep it simple. You need to choose a product. You need to connect the products to the suppliers. And you could start with as little as $200. And I'm saying 200 to be generous because you really shouldn't. I mean, you can win contracts with $20. I'm not kidding you. I've seen people do it, but they also have to end up figuring out how to scale. You don't now you can win a contract with, let's say 1,000 screws, each one of them costing, less than $20. Yeah, you can scale that way, but it'll be slow. The point of this is for you to have a strategy. I'm not going to talk to you about that strategy today, but you having contracts, let's say you make $100 off of spending only $20 to get this contract. That's amazing, but it's small. But you will continue to do that with bigger and bigger and bigger contracts. Depends on how fast you want to grow, how much you want to invest. But I always tell people, if you won $100, you started with 200, you won $100 off of one award, you should keep that pot building and keep adding money to it. You should not be using that money for anything else because pretty soon that's going to be $1,000. Now, some people start out with $5,000. If they say to me, which a lot of them do, Michelle, I have $5,000, I have $10,000, I have $7,000. How much can I do? I said, well, if you got $5,000, you got a fortune. You could literally scale very quickly because it doesn't even cost that much to win contracts. But it depends on where you want to be, how much you set aside a budget for yourself, but you got to start somewhere. So you create a pot. If you're working a job and you're not an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur, you can take money and move it. It's your money. If you're working a job because you have to work that job, I get that too. There are so many people that, some people have six figures, they have six-figure incomes, and they're like, you know what? Yeah, I make a lot of money, but I can't keep doing this. There's more for me. And so I tell them, you probably have access to more than some other people. So you could take your $7,000 or you could use a credit card because you're going to get that money back that you invested and you don't even have to pay until after you win. Now, you do have to make sure the product is going to be there. There's a way to do that. Product is not likely going to disappear, but you are dealing with the supplier. We'll get to that. We'll talk about that. But you can start with very little, seriously. And the next thing you know, you guys have seen some of my winners. Most of them started with very little. Most of them were scared and skeptical. Like I couldn't even believe that this was real. So if that's you, I get it. I understand. But it is real. And you can start with that little. But if you're with me, I teach you about making sure that you have a strategy. Some people want to get in services. Maybe they feel like I just don't have the money to get in services. So they start here, which is a very smart idea. Okay. But you have to put back into the pot. You get your $200 back, plus you get that $100 back. Now you have $300. Maybe you have enough to do two types of contracts, not just two contracts, but two types of contracts. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the process is about the step one, locating the product, the step two, matching up the supplier. But the step three is the bidding. That's what you need the money for. You win the award, then the contracting officer says, okay, here's the award. Now you need to deliver the product. That's what the money is for. Okay, so it's these three steps. Are there things around each step? Absolutely. And I'm going to talk you through some of that today. I try to be very succinct because I overshare. So this is why I have to have a presentation, because I overshare. It's because I'm very passionate about what I do. And I sometimes don't know what you guys know or what you don't know until you start asking me questions. And your questions are going to be different than the ones that I think of because I know what I'm doing. When you learn what you're doing, you will start to have better and better and more expansive questions because you don't know right now what you don't know. So you don't know what to ask. But these things are the basic things. So there are steps around choosing a product. There are steps around the supplier. Okay, a lot of people that are not with me, they're very confused about that. Not in the same way, in many different ways. Believe it or not, the government kind of gives you, and I say kind of because they don't teach you about how it works, but they actually give us all the information. They tell us what products they need. They tell us which suppliers they need. I shouldn't say that. I was going to say which suppliers the product needs to come from, but that's not true. What they tell us is the product, who the product must be made by. They don't tell us where to get it from. That's some of the confusion. Because different entities and different levels of sellers of a specific product are not the, as they call it, the OEM. They're not the original equipment manufacturers of the product. They're not. So I'll give you an example. I have a manufacturing company now. I have a product that I make. I make that product. My company makes that product. But what if we have distributors and retailers that sell that product? What if we don't sell it to the public or to other businesses? That's exactly how this is. You will see that a lot, and it confuses people because they're thinking, I found the product, but I can't use it because it didn't come from the original manufacturer. That is one of those little big secrets that if you're not with me, you probably don't know that. Only people in my community probably are the ones that know that because it's not discussed in the market. Even the contracting officer does not know that. They don't know where you got it from. They don't know how you got it. The only thing they're trying to make sure of is that you didn't steal it, that you didn't buy it off the street, and that you have traceability for it. So I could have 100 companies out there selling my product. As long as I authorize them to sell it, as long as they have proof that I authorize them to sell it, you can buy it from them. It's as simple as that. But nobody tells you that part. So you're going around in circles thinking, well, I got two sources, but they're not from the original manufacturer. They don't need to be. That's that one little thing you needed to know, and then you win. Because you were holding off bidding number 3 because you're thinking, I can't sell this to the government. I'll get into trouble because it didn't come from the manufacturer. It doesn't have to come directly from the manufacturer. It could come from the manufacturer directly. It could come from the distributor that the manufacturer authorized. It could come from the retailer, a third level sales retail company that the distributor sold to. As long as it is not a fake or a copy, it's fine. And as long as you can say where you got it from, if they ask, they don't always ask. When you first start, you might get a traceability letter. Some of you have heard about that. So that's it. But that's what traceability is. Where did it come from? How did you get it? Who did you get it from? And as long as they're authorized to get it and have it and sell it or resell it, it's fine. It's legal. And contracting officers, they understand a little bit of it because they might say, well, if you didn't get it directly from the manufacturer, when they send you a traceability letter, they might say, is it an authorized dealer? You would say yes.